Hello, hello.
Hello, hello, hello. Good
Welcome.
morning. Good afternoon to you.
Real
It's
close.
so good to see you. Thank you for.
Are you in LA? Where are you?
I am. Can you tell? I'm outside. I am. I'm in Los Angeles right now.
We're jealous. If you haven't heard, we have.
This is my last week, and then I'm over to you guys.
Be prepared for snow.
I'm looking forward to watching it from the inside.
Hot cocoa. Would you like to?
How am I?
You're fine. Would you like to try?
Can you hear me okay? Okay.
Do you want to try your PowerPoint?
Please.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and share screen.
We're good.
Excellent. Okay.
Yep.
Easy enough.
Yep. All right.
No, I didn't get a chance to meet all of you before.
I'm Karen. I'm the secretary.
I
Figured that out.
Hello, pleasure, Karen.
And Chad Copley is.
I'm Don, one of the members of the club.
Yes. Don Goring is past district governor.
Hi, Simone.
As well. And this is Chad. And Chad will
Hi,
be.
good afternoon. Thanks for your email, Chad.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
Chad will be the one introducing you.
Simone Renault.
Yes, perfect.
Awesome.
A shame about Liz's internet. She always brings me peace when she's on the calls, but I'm thrilled to be introduced by you this afternoon, Chad.
Thank you.
So Karen, I just want to double check. I'll probably be chatting for about 15, 17 minutes or so. Will that be okay?
Good.
Excellent. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
There's a scholar. A scholar.
All right.
Where's your president? He's right there. He just was drinking coffee.
Hi, Doris.
It's water. I've already had all my coffee.
You heard me, huh?
Too much coffee already, Don. I had to switch to water.
Tell me what those 4 plaques behind you are.
My plaques, those are just for all the initials that I get behind my names in the financial planning world.
Okay.
Yep.
You have to take quite a bit of tests, I know. I have a friend who's doing a similar path. You earn those letters.
It's kind of it's a good thing to be a lifelong learner, and it's another thing because they give you CE credits to support the other ones you already earned. They make you keep going. So
How else will we keep the money flowing?
yeah.
Well, I will hang tight back here. Just let me know when you need me.
Thank you.
Good morning, Karen. George here. I have a question for you. Did the board approve the $100 for the MLK Day event?
We meet
Board's
after.
meeting today,
after.
George.
Oh, it's today. Okay. Okay. Any questions about it?
I will let you know. I suspect they will approve it. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. And it's going to be this year, instead of for program printing, it's for a scholarship or award for the kid who writes the best essay on MLK. And I also thought if you wanted to, it's just basically a one-page essay that they have to write. If you wanted to invite them to come in on Zoom and read it to the club, that would be a neat thing to do on MLK Day.
I leave that to Chad's discretion, but I'll mark a note.
Yep.
and let the board know.
Yeah, that would be neat, especially where we'll be giving them the $100 award.
Mm-hmm.
And it's open to any kid in the county, any high school kid.
Got it.
Hey, Alka, I see you're on. Hey, Alka.
Where's Alka?
Hey.
Hi.
Hey, tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, I hope you have it on your schedule that we're going to be talking about human trafficking
Yeah.
with the West Liberty Club. Okay.
Yes, I got that.
You'll be there?
I will be there.
Did they send you the Zoom link?
Yes, they did.
Okay, great. Okay, I'm so glad you can be on there because it's so much better when it's the two of us.
Yeah, definitely. And I did join into there's a new club coming at California. It's called they just started it. It's called the Global Action Group. I don't know if you joined it.
Yes. Cosette is the head of it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is Brian.
Oh, Brian. Oh.
Yeah. So I did send them a link, and they're doing a lot of work in India as well. So we'll spread the word.
Yeah, it's spreading fast. These are great initiatives.
Yeah, and Jennifer Jones was there, and so I've asked at another platform as well, so sent her the question again. So we need to do that, and we've got more signatures for the resolution.
Oh, I was wondering.
Yeah, it's happening. So wonderful there as well.
That's good.
And I attended the Thursday meeting at the Minnesota Club.
Oh, you did? How was it?
Where I'll send you the information.
Okay.
I'll talk to you more about that.
Okay, thanks.
And did you receive the information from Iowa City AM Club about the billboards?
No, I've been looking for it too because I want to put it in the blog.
Oh, I'll make another phone call.
Okay. Yeah, no, they didn't send anything.
Okay.
I'm trying to get the blog out tomorrow, so.
Okay, I'll do that right after this meeting, and I'll do that.
They're going to have billboards up in Sioux City. And I have a photo of one of the billboards. It's really neat. I'll have it in the blog post.
Perfect, yeah.
It's like we're up to 25. We finally filled up our first screen on my computer.
Chad, would it be all right to invite our peace committee members, because they were very interested in listening in, to Simone as well? So would it be okay
Yes.
to share the link? Okay, thank
Yes.
you.
Yep. We have a full meeting agenda today. We'll give it another minute or two, see if we can get a few more people on before we get started. Hope everyone's enjoying our new logo on the screen there for our centennial year celebrating. We'll get started here in a moment. Karen, are there any others waiting? Are we pretty good to go? Okay. Yeah. Welcome everyone to the December 14th meeting of the Rotary Club of Ames. We have a good meeting lined up for today. And this will be our last meeting of the year here. If you would, if you're able, or if you'd stand up, we'll go ahead and virtually salute the flag with our Pledge of Allegiance. Join along if you'd like. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we actually have Louis on the line here from our music committee. Louis is actually going to welcome our guests with the welcome song. Louis also has a special song in celebration of our centennial that he's going to follow up with. So we'll get a double dose of Louis today, starting us off with our welcome song, and then also a special song celebrating our centennial. So take it away, Louis.
Okay, well, we'll do a double header today and start off the welcome song with "Welcome to you from Ames Rotary, Nevada, London, or Gay Prairie, from far off lands or the USA. We're glad that you are here today. Come back again whenever you're near. Join us and then we'll make it clear. Around the world you will always be welcome at Rotary." Now, for the second part, Jeff Johnson has been chairing the Centennial Committee, and the Music Committee has been participating with these preparations that have been in the works. We are planning to do a special song each month with words that Charles Knicker will write for us. We did one last month, and we're going to do one this month as well. And we'll be doing one in January and February, and then a special song for the centennial actual date of the celebration in March. This one, A Century of Giving, and in the text you see packed full baskets. It refers to the Christmas baskets that many have contributed to. watered and fed trees for TED, for the TED Tedesco Environmental Corridor. And then in the next verse, which you don't have on your screen yet, we mentioned kids in Africa and new bikes. We heard about new bikes from one of our district governors, and also as a reference to Shelter with New Hope with emergency residents and the way we have supported that, plus United Way. So the tune is I've Been Working on the Railroad, and here we go. We've been doing some nice giving, seems like night and day, helping folks get better living, fix things up for work and play. Don't you see the packed full baskets, ready so early Christmas morn? Don't you want to blow a gasket? Come and blow your horn. Candles we will blow, candles we will blow. Okay, you can blow your horn. Hey, now want to know, we all help them grow. Water and fed trees for TED. Kids in Africa have new bikes. Scholars in new countries on hikes. Someone's in a shelter with new hope, finding a new way to cope, singing fee-fi, fiddly-I-o, fee-fi, fiddly-I-o, fee-fi, fiddly-I-o, Rotary's on the go.
Awesome. Thank you, Louie. Jeff, thanks for jumping in and helping Louie finish that off strong.
I couldn't help myself. That was wonderful. Louie, thank you guys so much. This is wonderful.
That was awesome.
Awesome, just awesome.
So yeah, we appreciate all the music committee continues to do along with our Centennial Celebration Committee. Thank you so much. And we'll go through just a few announcements here. There is a board meeting today. Following this Zoom meeting, we'll have a Zoom board meeting. A special moment of silence for anyone in our family that we're aware of who might need that extra thought or prayer this morning. And I am actually not aware of anyone, which is good. Is there anyone that is aware, would like to unmute and share with the group, someone who might be needing an extra thought from us this morning?
Chad, I have a Rotarian friend in France who is suffering from COVID, and she is really feeling down, and but she is overcoming that. But she has two other friends in the hospital, so she's deeply needing our prayers right now. So please keep her in your thoughts. Her name is Maxine.
Thank you, Alka. So yeah, if you didn't recognize, Alka Kennelcar is on our call today. She's our district governor-elect for District 6000, and it sounds like we have some Rotarian friends across the globe that do need an extra thought coming their way. And also just this time of year and being a COVID year, we'll just take a moment also just to remember those that might be struggling, those that might not be with full bellies or with warmth that some of us share. So if you would, just take a moment and remember those who might be less fortunate as well.
And then let's be in thought for those who are taking the vaccine, mainly because that early lineup are our healthcare workers. And let's also be in thought of the Electoral College as the votes are cast today. There'll be a lot of challenges across our country. So again, this is a time to be in thought for our nation.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's take a moment. All right, thank you, everyone. At this time of our meeting today, I would like to invite one of our own, former District Governor Don Goring, as a part of our centennial celebration year. Don is going to give a talk for a few minutes on some past district governors, but also some other leaders from our local club here. So Don, if you would unmute and take it away, and then we'll follow up with our regularly scheduled program.
Thank you, Chad. I've been asked to report on the involvement of our members in the leadership of this club and beyond, and I should say it has really been significant. The record shows that at least one member of this club has served as our club president for 1 year, with 2 exceptions. During the 1986-87 and 87-88 Rotary years, 2 different members served as our president because of employment changes. Following action by Rotary's Council on Legislation, women were admitted into membership in 1987. Monica Porter was our first female to serve as president during the 1999-2000 Rotary year, and the first member to serve a second term as president in 2007-2008. 4 other female members who have served as our club presidents, they are Joyce Derlin, Allison Walters, Tanya Anderson, and Jean Cressy. I should point out that over the 100 years of our existence, Rotary International has increased the number of districts because of Rotary expansion around the world. At the beginning, this club was part of District 10. We are now part of District 6000. Like no other club in District 6000, this club has provided district leadership by having 9 members serve as a district governor. Serving as district governor for the Rotary year, and the first one is Alvin Edgar, 1946-47. Alvin was from the ISU Music Department. Next, 56-57, Wallace Red Barron from the ISU Alumni Association. 61-62, Harold Hagelin, senior partner of the Hagelin Law Firm. 1976-77, you want to get to, there we go, Ralph Patterson, head of ISU Engineering Extension. He was followed by, in 1983-84, by Waldo Wagner, head of ISU CIRRUS, or the Center for Industrial Research and Service. Then John Dasher served from 1992 to 93. As you may know, John was owner of the area McDonald's. I had the opportunity to serve in 1998-99. I'm a retired ISU Extension 4-H and Youth Development Specialist. I was followed by Ray Mustin in 1999-2000. Ray was here. He was a retired staff member or faculty of the University of Iowa. Ray was followed by Del Bloom, 2006-2007, retired from ISU Ames Laboratory, Research and Development Specialist. By comparison, the Rotary Club of Des Moines has had 5 members serve as district governor, and I would sincerely hope that some members of this club would be a future District 6000 governor. I would also like to recognize past District Governor Jim Patton from District 5970, who has joined this club and has had a significant impact on the Tedesco Park in South Ames. Within Rotary, there are over 50 vocational and recreational fellowships, each of which provides the opportunity to serve in a variety of roles, including leadership. Both Allison Walder and I have served as president of the International Skiing Fellowship of Rotarians. This fellowship organizes a week of skiing somewhere in North America for Rotarians and their families around the world. I should point out there is a subset of this group that organizes a skiing week each year in Europe. I would also like to point out that our club's International Grant Committee has been at the forefront of Rotary International's foundation, as it has redefined the matching grant program with a lot of input from our committee. The result being that all Rotary Foundation grants must now be sustainable, impactful, and larger monetarily. If we were meeting in person, I would have the members of this committee stand to be recognized, as they have really made a major impact on the foundation's grant program. I think I have all the members, but serving on this committee, Glenn Ripke is our committee chair, Gerald Conlon, Dave Fox, Steve Jones, Mary Wells, David Hansen, and Hugo Fritz Franzen. We really need to give that group a tremendous round of applause. In addition to the grant committee, several members of our club have served the district on polio eradication and the fundraising committee. Following my tour as a district governor, I was asked to serve as a regional Rotary Foundation coordinator. This was a 3-year appointment responsible for promoting giving to the Rotary Foundation in 6 Rotary districts across the north central states of the U.S. This was a very interesting experience for me. I want to thank Karen Sevdy, our secretary, for creating the visuals that I used this morning. As you can tell, members of this club have been engaged in many leadership roles in the club, in our district, and beyond. And I would sincerely like to see this continue. Thank you for the opportunity.
Don, thank you. Thank you for...
Somebody just pulled up in the drive, Bev.
Warren, you're not muted. There you go. Thank you, Don, for sharing about our leadership, our past leadership. There's some amazing things that have happened over the past 100 years, and we're, as our theme would indicate, we're excited about exciting things happening over the next 100 years, including, what do we have? One more female president already lined up to serve, already here coming up in July. Kelsey Carper will also lead our club. So excited to announce that, carry on that strong tradition of female leadership as well. Past district governors, the committees on grants, the other fundraising opportunities, just wonderful leadership, and we appreciate that. So thanks for highlighting that. We'll look forward to other moments and reports from our Centennial Celebration Committee as we continue to celebrate. And at this time, normally, I would invite Liz Beck to introduce our speaker for today. Unfortunately, Liz's internet is a bit under the weather, and so it is going to be my distinct honor to introduce our program speaker today. Simone Renault is a creator, psychiatrist, an activist in training, and a proud Iowan who works tirelessly in pursuit of the beloved community and to align well-being with wholeness alongside marginalized peoples and in low-resource regions of the world. Currently, she is on hiatus from her 4th year of medical school under a full scholarship at the David Geffen School of Medicine at UCLA, where she is medical coordinator of the Mobile Clinic Project and director of companion care, which provides direct service and accompaniment to persons experiencing homelessness in West Hollywood. She graduated from the University of Iowa in 2014 with degrees in biology and international studies, and she has spent her time in quarantine organizing COVID supplies and funds for the Mobile Clinic Project's community partners, crocheting stuffed animals also, and learning how to become a more present and persistent member of her community. She is thrilled to be selected as this year's Rotary Global Grant Scholar, and as she acquires her master's degree from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine and King's College London in Global Mental Health. She is pleased to say that after many months of delays and restrictions, She will take flight for London on January 8th. So it's coming right up. And Simone, we know that you're busy. We appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to share with us today. We will gather questions throughout your talk, and hopefully we'll have a few minutes at the end to go through those questions. And take it away, Simone.
Thank you so much, Chad. It's such a pleasure. It really feels like I'm connecting to Iowa every time I'm on a Zoom meeting. I'll be coming home to my mother in Hubbard, about an hour north of Des Moines, next week. So I'm really looking forward to being back in the snow. But for now, I'm outside giving you a little taste of Los Angeles. Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be with you today virtually. I want to take a quick moment before I begin just to personally thank District 6000 and especially Liz Beck, who I know is not on the call, but I really appreciated all her support and communication and advocacy in the later stages of my application. We've been in contact actually for about 5 years now. I'll talk about that a little in my talk, but I also appreciate all the Rotary members who took the time to review my application in anticipation of its final submission. So I appreciate your support. I'm going to share my screen really quick. I've been having a little bit of unstable internet connection, so just let me know if anything cuts out. So I'm just going to preface this talk by saying that I'm not the most natural in talking about myself in casual conversation with friends, let alone giving a full talk on the matter. So those close to me, however, would probably say that I'm pretty natural when I'm talking about things that I'm passionate about. So forgive me if I introduce some statistics about global mental health, which formally is the research practice study of placing priority on improving mental health and achieving equity in mental health for all people worldwide, and the state of the field today, not just to show you why I'm pursuing the work, but perhaps just to divert some attention away from me for a second. And then also in class the other week, one of our lecturers quoted Desmond Tutu in saying, "A person is only a person because of other people." So there's no way that I can talk about myself and my work without talking about those who inspired and lifted me up as well. So nevertheless, I do see doctors as unique storytellers. I think if we do our work well, doctors have they develop, I would say, this intuitive understanding about the motivations, actions, and reactions that make us human. And we anticipate, we empathize, we work within human identity and interaction, and we improvise when things don't go expected. And I think inevitably we provide this stage on which other people can continue to tell their story in the way they choose to tell it. That autonomy, I think that ability to direct the course of one's own life is so fundamental to who we are and who we want to be. And so I'm drawn to the practice of medicine and the practice of psychiatry and global mental health, not only as this champion of biological life, but then also this champion of biographical life. So I'll be a storyteller today. This is where my story starts. This is Eden Theological Seminary in a town outside of St. Louis. I had the chance to tell some of you at the Rotary Foundation luncheon last month about this, but it's so pivotal to who I am and the global interdisciplinary lens with which I view health and illness. And so it bears mentioning again. This was my home for much of my childhood. My mother was a single mom. She decided to pursue ministry late in her career. And for some reason that I still don't know to this day, fate, I guess, we were put in the international dormitory. So I was the only child in the complex, and all of my aunties and uncles who helped raise me were from all over the world. They were from Korea and Hungary and Malawi and Brazil. And I got to run in between their apartments while my mom was in class. And I was introduced to new and interesting smells and foods, television programs. I remember my name being called out by a West African talking drum. And I can recall they had these weekly meetings where they would talk about things, social justice, peace, ethics, and they would always end with the saying of the Lord's Prayer, but they would say it in their own language. And those moments were so spectacular and still so spectacular to me, because it's this jumbled cadence of unique voices that are all saying the same thing, rising and falling in unison. But in that moment, that relationship between individual identity and global community was revealing itself to me, and is this notion that we're bound up in each other in some way, and we're unmovingly reliant on one another. And that has carried me forward to this day. Fast forward 15 years later, this is college me. You might be able to guess the background. I was your quintessential global health undergraduate junkie at the University of Iowa. That's the Pentacrest, the old Capitol building in the background. I was studying neurobiology and international studies, active in the honors department. I founded a student group on campus that supported global vaccine advocacy, in large part because of the work of Rotary in eradicating polio. And I was part of this ever-growing community of young people who were seeking to pursue careers in healthcare. But I think young people were starting to view the health of each person, those patients that they would one day serve, particularly the most marginalized and oppressed in our country, as inextricable to the interpersonal struggles and the systemic struggles of persons in every corner of the globe. And we were total groupies, for sure. There's this saying that goes, if you have come here just to help me, you're wasting your time. But if you've come because your liberation is bound up in mine, then let's work together. And if that is our groupie slogan, then the rock star behind it was Dr. Paul Farmer. If you haven't heard of him, I highly recommend Mountains Beyond Mountains, which talks about his work. He's an internal medicine doctor at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston. He's a professor at Harvard Medical School, and founder of the global health nonprofit Partners in Health. And he spoke in 2011, right off to the right of that picture at the Iowa Memorial Union, about building the first academic hospital in post-earthquake Haiti. And it just blew my little undergraduate mind. And then I went and I interned at his nonprofit that next summer. That's Paul, that's me. I definitely feel like I'm in a picture with like Elvis Presley or something. But I then moved to Boston that next year so I could take his class. And then I worked with the Gambian Ministry of Health and Social Welfare, and I cared for abandoned children with neurological disorders in a pediatric hospital in Romania. And I studied the interface of medicine and social work in southern India. And these were all through scholarship programs through the University of Iowa. And through all of this, my approach to global health really grew out of this inclination to identify and work within the gaps of healthcare. What aren't we doing? Why aren't we doing it? And what could I do about it? So fast forward 3 more years, I'm doing research in the neurointensive care unit at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston. And I read about a lecture being given one afternoon across the street, and it was titled Rethinking Maternal Healthcare, Bridging the Credibility Gap. And I was absorbed at that time with just about everything that had to do with healthcare and gaps. And I got off of work early and I snuck into the back of the lecture hall. And the lecture was on maternal health care, but it had nothing to do with increasing access to prenatal vitamins or getting more women to the clinic to deliver their babies or preventing mother-to-child transmission of HIV. No, Dr. Vikram Patel, who's in the bottom right corner there, was speaking in this beautifully serene and eloquent voice about maternal depression and how he was designing and evaluating programs that train lay counselors, so people from the communities that he worked in, these are ordinary people with no prior expertise in healthcare or counseling, to deliver mental health interventions to new mothers. And I was completely captivated. According to the World Health Organization, depression affecting an estimated 322 million people worldwide It's now outpaced pneumonia and diarrheal diseases to be the leading cause of disability worldwide. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among 15 to 29-year-old people in all countries of the world. And 75% of those suicides occur in low and middle income countries. Even without the direct threat of suicide, people with severe mental illness like schizophrenia die from the things that many of us are going to die from: heart attacks, cancer, lung disease, but they die from it at a much higher rate and 15 to 30 years younger than the general population. From anxiety and depression, autism, developmental disorders, psychosis, dementia, mental illness accounts for 23% of the global burden of disease, and yet even in the best resourced countries like the US, over 50% of people with a mental illness receive absolutely zero treatment. And in a country like India, where I worked again in the summer of 2017, that number approaches 90% untreated. If we translated the proportion of psychiatrists that we would see in the US to the population of India, which is already a dearth, we should expect to see about 114,000 practicing psychiatrists, but in reality, there's 4,000, and that's just 3% of that number. So talk about a healthcare gap. Over the next few years, I kept tabs on Dr. Patel. He's an academic psychiatrist by training, and his work as founder of Sangath, which is a nonprofit research institution designing effective models of care for people with mental health disorders and harnessing existing community resources to implement them. So I personally envision myself working in the academic and nonprofit sectors of global mental health one day. And what was critical to this vision for me was understanding how one designs interventions that are both community-based and evidence-based. So I thought out the world leader in abandoning the mental health care models that he and his fellow psychiatrists and the psychiatrists that work at UCLA and University of Iowa are trained in, which is good for high resource settings in some ways. They're heavily reliant on specialized providers and complex treatment plans and expensive medications. And instead, he focuses on lay counselors or community health workers. And that is an approach that is not new to global health, but it is new to global mental health. And I went to work for him the summer after my first year of medical school. I was based in New Delhi, the National Capital Territory of India, where the Pride research team, which is this big group in the bottom right, we were hard at work, as you can see from the pictures with my coworkers. But we were in the midst of launching a randomized control trial, which was studying an intervention designed by these psychiatrists and clinical psychologists from India, from the UK, where I'm studying now, and then also from my home institution at UCLA. And the intervention was to treat adolescents for common mental disorders in Delhi's public high schools. And the training for this intervention was for Delhiites in their early 20s. These are people with bachelor's degrees, but no prior professional mental health experience. And Sangath's research to date states that these types of interventions by lay counselors are effective. They're providing a significant improvement in symptom severity, remission rates, behavioral activation, which is doing things even when you don't want to do them, less suicidal thoughts, less days missed from work because of their mental illness. And then on top of that, they're partnering with the State Directorate of Education to conduct this study. And because of that, Sangath has the state government's ear when they're developing future policy for the mental well-being of the young people in their state. So they're also coupling this research with community engagement. Their initiative is It's Okay to Talk, which is India's first ever youth-led campaign for mental health. It's meant to engage with real narratives around mental health and well-being and engender dialogue around help seeking and mental well-being among India's young people. So this is the kind of stuff I just want to wrap myself in like a blanket. What has brought this work full circle for me was actually what happened upon my return to California, and the influence that Sangath had on my view of mental health and well-being among the most marginalized in Los Angeles. As medical coordinator of the UCLA Mobile Clinic Project, like Chad said, I've spent every Wednesday night on the streets of West Hollywood, out of the back of that truck, providing an easier entry point to medical care for a population with a long history of discrimination, inadequate disease management, and thus distrust of the healthcare infrastructure and physicians in general. There's not a week that goes by that I'm not engaging in dialogue with somebody who is struggling with homelessness, as well as an untreated or poorly treated mental illness. And that's, discussing somebody's suicidal ideation or navigating the barriers to getting back on medication for schizophrenia, or just bearing witness to the unrelenting mental duress that comes with having to survive on the streets. So we're working to channel the lessons from Sangath at Mobile Clinic, and innovating this space to provide access points to mental health care for our clients. We've partnered with community mental health and primary care centers in the area to acquire weekly appointment slots for our clients. So bridging them from the curbside to the clinic in this accompaniment program that Chad brought up called Companion Care that I led. The program's now in its 4th year, and it partners UCLA undergraduate students with our clients wanting chronic care management, and discussing and then addressing head-on their personal barriers to accessing healthcare through direct accompaniment, physically going with them to the clinic. And we're whatever that client needs us to be for that appointment. If we're a form filler, we do that. We're an advocate. We hold their hands while they get their blood drawn, an appointment manager, a navigator of the subway, somebody who can re-explain what the doctor just said, just another human presence. And I'm really looking to my master's year as a framework for implementing some of these other entry points to mental health care, mindfulness-based interventions, lay counselor-based interventions. What does that look like on the streets of West Hollywood? I think making mental health care more affordable and accessible in these low resource settings, we're demonstrating that it's effective, but it's also fundamentally empowering. So these are communities of care where ordinary people are coming together and promoting mutual well-being. Besides our supervisors, none of us have a medical degree yet, but we're bound up in one another's identity. We're sharing each other's fate for a while. We're supporting one another on our journeys, and that's accompaniment. And to me, accompaniment is the backbone of health equity and global health done right. And it evokes in me this feeling that I had in my childhood home. And that to me is a life vocation worth pursuing. So the theme of following in the footsteps of my heroes, as you may have picked up on during this talk, would not be complete without now applying to the MSc program for global mental health. It was created by Dr. Vikram Patel in 2014. It is the first and only program in the world specifically dedicated to equipping the next generation of global mental health researchers, policymakers, activists, clinicians. This is a highly specialized joint program between the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, which is ranked 3rd in the world for public health, and King College London's Institute of Psychiatry, Psychology, and Neuroscience, which is ranked 2nd in the world for schools in psychiatry. And thanks to all of you and the Rotary Foundation, you have made a very ambitious young lady's dreams come true. I reached out to Liz Beck, like I said, about 5 years ago, because I just knew I wanted to attend this public health institution, even just for the truly global nature of the student body, which I'll show you in a moment. But medical school inevitably called my name, and I came back to this about 3 years ago, and en route to Delhi. I stood exactly where last year's MSc cohort is standing in that photo. And I looked up at those gold embossed letters, and I said, I'm going to come here. And in a few short weeks, I'm going to be standing in that spot again. I wanted to show you a screenshot of my first Zoom lecture this fall in statistical epidemiology. It's a larger introductory course taken by many of the students at LSHTM. Each heart and circle and star there was drawn by my classmates to indicate where they call home. But I want to show you my family for the year. This is the 50 students who are a part of my cohort, and just a handful of the countries that they hail from. I'm so grateful to have been afforded the chance to learn from some of the most wholehearted, intensely deliberate young people I've ever met, who are much more impressive than me, believe me. They like to talk about the same things I do. They never get sick of it. It's a global mental health nerd's dream. There are clinical psychologists and nurses. There's 4 doctors in the cohort, including me, but there's also community health workers, human rights activists with the lived experience of mental illness, researchers, nonprofit leaders. There's even a music therapist. Our courses are teaching us the hard skills of statistics and epidemiology and qualitative analysis and economic evaluation, but that's intended to partner with the public sector in designing these interventions, but also framing global mental health theory with a human rights framework and a structural lens on how experiencing mental ill health is so similar and also so different depending on what space you were born into. And thankfully, every class that I've had so far is literally a global case study, because everybody brings their own experience to the table. It's absolutely beautiful. And it's not in the way any of us expected it to be. Zoom classes at 3:30 in the morning have been difficult, but as Chad said, I've been given clearance to arrive in a few weeks' time, so I can take Zoom classes in my own time zone. London just wrapped up its second period of quarantine, so it sounds like I'll be able to socially distance with a few members of my cohort outside. And there's talk that there will be a couple of classes perhaps in person this spring, keeping my fingers crossed for that. And I get to stay in this beautiful international living space for postgraduates that really reminds me of Hogwarts. I can't help but think that. So finally, I just want to close by saying this is the sign that you see in the London Underground, but I use it as a pun because we really need to mind the gaps in healthcare and mental health care. To achieve mental health for all, we need so much right now. It's just in its infancy, but we must be eager to be bound up in one another, and we have to be willing to mind the gaps. We need capacity building of our mental health and primary care infrastructure worldwide. We need the will of people in power, but most importantly, we need to have the creativity to empower and equip regular, ordinary people in our community for our community, and we need the evidence to back it up. And I want to thank you so much for letting me be a part of this welcome, lifelong effort that I am embarking on. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Simone. That was a wonderful presentation. And we're jealous of the sunny background that you have there with the, it looks like a warm breeze blowing in the background. But so thanks again for being a part of this. Hopefully we have some questions that are being formulated by some of our members. I'm just curious, this is obviously, there's so much going on, but has there been a significant trend in increase with mental health as a global healthcare issue? Has that been significantly increasing? And if so, you know, what do you attribute a lot of that increase to?
Thank you for that question. As I said, global mental health is in its infancy, but you're correct in stating that it is gaining traction. I think over the past 10 years, we've really put global mental health on the policy map. So even talking about it in World Health Organization policy literature, all the way down to talking about it on our social media pages. I think there's a huge groundswell of people reducing stigma within our own communities about mental illness and how prevalent it is. It really impacts all of us. There's somebody we all know who's struggling with that, whether or not they're being treated for it formally. And so I do think it's a combination of things. I do think that it is in part, you're right, there is a big breeze. That's not usual for Los Angeles, actually. There is, I think, people who are really special, who raise their voices, like Dr. Vikram Patel, and show that mental health interventions in these settings are effective. We don't need to wait to bring mental health care to people in all corners of the globe. I think that it is the new onset of young people who now, I think it's in their 6th year, this MSc program, and they're introducing 50 young professionals every year who are doing the research showing that this is a problem, that this is a growing problem, especially with the onset of COVID-19. Some of the data is showing that this problem is indeed getting worse because of the global pandemic, especially for our young people. And then, as I mentioned, I think it's our own shift in understanding mental health. I may have to go inside because of this breeze, but I think all of that combined has really changed the map on we cannot have health without mental health. As I mentioned, people are dying with severe mental illness, not from their mental illness, but they're dying from other things that are preventable in the population. And until we can appropriately treat mental illness, we're not going to be able to reduce that 15 to 30 year life expectancy gap for this population. So yeah, thankfully I'm catching it on the upswell, and hopefully from here it'll just be more attention, more funding, and more integration with primary care.
And I think there was a question in the chat from Jeff Johnson about the message maybe getting it out to our politicians and governments that mental health is worth investing in. I'm assuming there's initiatives out there to help promote that as well.
I'm moving inside, everyone. Yes. I think partnering, the best way to address this is from a standpoint of working with our government officials, and I think Partners, and Dr. Paul Farmer from Partners in Health really championed this. This is not just a nonprofit that's going in and dropping in little pockets of good work. What they're doing is they're partnering with the governments of the countries that they're working in, looking at, is this program effective? Does this do the work that we want it to do? Actually using evidence to do that, and then partnering with state and federal politicians to scale this up, and actually studying that scale up as well, because like I said, so many countries have similarities. I mean, mental illness is a brain disorder, and our brains are all stemming from similar stuff. So you can see where there's a lot of similarities, but the way that those diseases present themselves and manifest is so different based on how you were raised, what interactions are like, and that's going to be different everywhere in the world. So looking at how to make those programs effective is going to be different everywhere in the world, and in some ways and similar in other ways. So I think it's absolutely pivotal that we're using the government's that we're working in, getting their buy-in, and actually creating some of the first mental health policies in many of these countries. Actually, one of my cohort members designed the first mental health policy for the country of Vietnam for their LGBTQ population. And so we're all just in the very beginning stages of all of this.
Thank you. And Glenn Ripke asks, probably more practically, how can we identify people with mental health needs and get them help before they end up in the legal system?
Such a good question. Such a good question. Because I think one of the reasons I'm so drawn to mental illness is you cannot remove it from the story of an individual. There is every interaction that we have and every hope and dream that we have is incorporated into our mental state and our psyche. And how that goes as expected or goes unplanned can really have an impact on people who don't have a mental illness, right? So things like entering into the legal system or ending up homeless, like a lot of my clients, that can be caused by mental illness, but it can also exacerbate something that might have been under the surface. And you're right, as soon as we enter the legal system, especially for my clients in West Hollywood, it's a cycle. I'm seeing people in the psychiatric emergency department who are there 3 or 4 times a month, easy, who just cycle between jails, emergency departments for psychiatric needs, and the streets. And I think what it's going to take, and this is a long shot, maybe I'll answer the question in terms of what my dreams and aspirations for the state of mental health care will be, and then maybe some shorter term gains. What I'd like to see is mental health care just like we see pediatric checkups. We have preventive physical health care in this country, and everyone knows to go in and have their well child checks and their vaccination schedules, but we don't have anything for preventive mental health care. And I think that I would say deficiency in our healthcare infrastructure, and then also stigma around mental health, causes people to present very late when things are so intense and so severe and feel so overwhelming that it's really impacting our day-to-day lives, how we work, how we love, how we interact. And for some people who are already socially disadvantaged, it means entering into the legal system or losing homes and ending up on the streets. So I think preventive healthcare is a big thing, and integrating it into our primary health clinics is a big thing. And then I think in the meantime, I think, meeting people where they're at physically, in their homes, on the streets, wherever you are, making mental health care very accessible and community-based, not being, you have to see your primary care physician and then you have to see your psychiatrist to get medications. If we can make it as easy as possible to bring mental health care to people, I think that's going to be the ticket to preventing people from diving further into these legal systems and places that are too hard to come back from in this country, unfortunately.
Thank you. And Tom Walsh asked a question. This might be our last question. Looks like we're kind of bumping up against the hour here. Have you found cultural factors contributing to mental health issues?
That's a great question. Absolutely. And we're studying this in my class right now. We had a whole week devoted to culture and mental health. So I do want to mention again what makes us similar, and something that transcends cultures, and things like severe mental illness, like psychosis. These things seem to be more similar across cultures than they are different. But I think more common mental disorders, depression, anxiety, these are things that look very different in different spaces. I think that has to do with what matters to people. depending on who you are and where you're from. Is that religion? Is that a strong family unit? Is that, you know, being very, very successful as an individual? Is that, you know, educational attainment? And so I think all of these factors and whether or not life is going as we wish it to, or as we want to direct the course of our lives, that like friction really leads to mental dissonance and mental unrest. And so that can bring about depression. But depending on where you're from, it can feel very differently for different people. Calling it, not just by calling it by different names, but actually feeling it in the body differently. I'm starting to get a little psychiatristy now, but really it is profound how differently people call it, describe it, because it is a strange thing to describe, you know, our mental state or how, you know, our thoughts are feeling in our body. That's a very fancy term. And so not just by name, but also actually how we're feeling things in the body is very different. And so therefore we have to be treating it differently as well. Yeah, great question.
Thank you. And Allison Walter added there that she has a son who's volunteering and working with organizations in Olympia, Washington. That sounds very similar, she said, to the West Hollywood program that you're a part of. So just reiterating what we all have learned and understand that what you're doing is very important work. And she and all of us commend you for their efforts and enthusiasm in what you're doing. And we just wish you all the best. Your next chapter here, starting January 8th, it looks like, to be back at your learning institution and digging in and taking another step further. But thank you again for sharing with us and help opening our eyes. And that's one big thing that you can continue to do, is creating awareness through groups like us. So thank you for all you do, and thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much for your time. I hope I can send you guys an update in the spring from London. I appreciate so much your patience and listening to me. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. And to our club members, this is our last club meeting before the holidays. So please, everyone, have a safe, happy holiday, healthy new year. It may not be maybe surrounded by as many friends and families as you were in previous years, but we just hope that everyone is safe, everyone has a good holiday season, and we'll be back, I think, January 4th as a club. Again, as a reminder, if you're on the board, take a real quick break and then get back on another Zoom call. Thank you to Don and to our speaker, Simone, and we'll end it here with the 4-way test. So, of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? So happy holidays to everyone. And thank you, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.